All right, everybody, welcome back to week 5 of New to Lifecycle Insights. I don't say that very often because this is a 4-week session that we do, and it repeats itself every month. But this month we happen to have 5 Wednesdays, so we're going to get into some new and unexplored territory this month as we do a non-repeat version of New to Lifecycle Insights. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to walk through a few things in the dashboard. And then we're going to jump in and talk through Report Builder, which is a section of Lifecycle Insights that we don't spend a lot of time on Lifecycle Insights. But it is one that I think has a lot of value to most of you. And this will enable you guys to use Lifecycle Insights to speak your language instead of trying to use Lifecycle Insights to deliver my language and my speak, because I understand, well, Michael says I speak to his language and I say a lot of the things that they're saying. That doesn't apply to every MSP. Every one of you guys is different. Every one of you guys is unique. And I want you to be able to keep some of your own DNA in your output, in the deliverables that you take to your clients, just using our platform to automate it, make it faster, make it smoother, make it easier. So with that being said, I am going to take just a 30-second detour and introduce you guys to Amy. Amy is our newest account manager here at Lifecycle Insight. She's hanging out on the call today. Some of you may interact with Amy at some point as your accounts get assigned out. She may become one of your primary points of contact. So there's Amy waving at you. So with that, we're going to dive right in. For those of you who haven't spent a lot of time in Lifecycle Insights, I'm going to point out a couple of key features that I want you to pay attention to. Obviously, we have the onboarding checklist at the top. If you have a little red number up here, it means you haven't checked everything off from your onboarding and you still have some work to do. You may not be ready to go out and meet with customers. If you get stuck working your way through your onboarding checklist, we have a link here that you can click on, and it will take you to the page where you need to do the work. If you click on the little question mark, it will open a Freshdesk article in a new window that will walk you through how to fill out the work, how to do the work. So this takes you to where you do the work. This shows you the how with screenshots and everything else. So for ConnectWise Manage, for example, it'll take me to where I integrate manage, and the question mark will take me to a page that walks me through building a secure security group in API, or a secure API user in ConnectWise that I don't get any more permissions for Lifecycle Insights than I absolutely need to process of least privilege and all that. We'll walk you through every single step of that in every product that we integrate with. So pay attention to these question marks. They can be super helpful, but also pay attention to the little numbers up here at the top. If you have numbers next to the bell, that means we've released something cool and new that we wanted you to know about, and you haven't clicked on it yet. So if you're trying to import contracts from Autotask or contracts from ConnectWise or something like that, there are some new features that we've released here in September that we want to make sure that you guys know about. Keep an eye on that bell. That will be where new features go to be alerted to you. And finally, as you're working your way through your onboarding, if you're still in your onboarding period, you have access to this Sync on Demand function. Sync on Demand is the little, I call it a whirly gig because I don't have a better name for this. It kind of looks like a recycling symbol, but Sync on Demand, not super intuitive. It's kind of a buried, hidden away feature. But if you've done a lot of deletes in your PSA, the only way that we delete those out is through nightly maintenance. So if you're going through cleaning up data in your PSA, deleting duplicate assets, you'll click up here on Sync on Demand, you'll click the little down arrow, and you can resync your PSA, or you can, if you've added a bunch of new assets, you can send this out to Dell or Lenovo to go do those warranty lookups. Not everything exists in Sync on Demand yet, but we are adding more and more features here. If you're on the second tier package or higher, this is available to you after your trial is over, and you can continue to use this. If you're on the $75 a month package, this goes away after the first 30 days of your trial period. It's one of the only features that we limit based on price plan. So with that said, that's kind of how some of the things you need to know about in your dashboard. If you don't have multi-factor authentication set up, please go up here, go to your profile and enable multi-factor authentication. I can't do it here because I'm demoing our G Suite single sign-on. We'll have single sign-on to Microsoft Office here very, very, very soon. Before the end of the year, that'll be out and you can just log in with your Office 365 credentials. But if you're not doing that yet, please go configure multi-factor authentication and get that set up for you. That leads me to help. I wonder if we have a help doc for multi-factor authentication. But we don't. Oh, we do. Enabling multi-factor authentication. There you go. So great use of our help system. You can click down in here. You can pull up any of our help articles, and if you want to export that to a full screen window, you just click right here. It'll pop out of your Lifecycle Insights application and turn up out there in a full screen window for you. What I really wanted you to see, the reason I opened help is because New to Lifecycle Insights is a 4-week session and it is recurring. So if you missed one, if you're starting on week 5 and you don't want to wait for me to start over next week, you just want to get moving on this, you can actually come out here and search for New to LCI. This is super secret code words, but if you know about it, you can come out here and search and you'll see we have week 1 documented out here. We have week 2 and week 3 documented out here. And you can just drill into any one of these and you can go rewatch a previous version of this session. These previous recordings are a couple months old, so there may be a button that got moved or something that's a tiny bit different, but most of the content has remained the same. And we're going to go ahead and update those sessions with a little bit of additional info as we go along. We'll refresh these, renew these, and make sure you get the latest version of the platform in those sessions. So in the New to Lifecycle Insights sessions, we go through data cleanup. That's one of the big things that we focus on is data quality, making sure that the data that you're carrying into your quarterly business review sucks a little less every time you meet with that customer, right? All of us, the first time you guys logged in here, if you went and looked at your data quality, it really wasn't what you wanted it to be. I'm sure of that. I only say that because I've worked with about 380 MSPs off and on as we've brought this platform to bear, and no one logged in and said, "Woo, my data is awesome." So as MSPs, it's a continual struggle to make sure that we keep up with the documentation. We're the first platform out there that really gives you visibility into it. So you want to see your customers up here in the green. If you have oranges, they're ones that need a little bit of work. If you have reds and yellows, then they need a lot of work. But focus on this before you go out and give your quarterly business review. Make sure that you're doing that data cleanup and getting those customers right. Data cleanup may be just archiving out or deleting duplicate assets. It may be adding purchase dates and configuring some of our APIs so that we can come clean up the data for you. It may be getting your RMM and PSA talking properly, where we're exposing and showing you places that they don't communicate right, that you just never knew about before. And some of that may be work back between your RMM and your PSA where one's feeding the other bad data. So don't be surprised if you dive into an asset list and you're missing stuff like serial number for a bunch of assets or operating systems or something like that. It's very common that the RMM tool and PSA aren't talking correctly. And if you just get those things remapped in that integration, that our data will get cleaned up and fixed in the next evening. So we talk about data quality. We talk about asset lists and user lists and budget forecasts, how to use those components to really build a compelling quarterly business review that drives the customer to make the decision you want them to make, while kind of making them feel like it was their idea, or at least that they had some input on the result. And that's really the goal, is to make them not feel sold to, but make them feel educated and led where they're going on their cybersecurity journey. And then the last thing is the risk assessment itself. We spend a good bit of time on how to perform a proper risk assessment and how to deliver that risk assessment by the nature of projects to your customer, to say, hey, here's where we're off base today. Here's where we don't align with our best practices. And these are the things you can do to improve it, which will show as projects. And then finally, something we probably don't spend enough time talking about in New to Lifecycle Insights, something we're going to dive into today, is our scheduler. So we have a scheduler in the platform today that is going to be expanded on in Q4 and probably into Q1 of next year if development continues at the pace that it's on right now. We're a little bit behind on delivering some of our Q3 deliverables. So that leads me to think some of our Q4 deliverables might drag just a little too. But what we're working on is giving you the ability to come in here and really segment out your customers. And by segmenting out your customers, going out and saying, hey, Creative Designs, they're that customer that is my perfect sweet spot. They spend $3,800 a month with me. They're just techie enough that I should meet with them 4 times a year. I don't need to meet with them any more often than that. We can do a true QBR with this customer. But then I've got Hogwarts School of Wizardry. They don't really use a lot of technology. They're really basic. They're not super advanced. And I'm only going to meet with them once a year. Why we have 2 meetings in here. Somebody was in my demo environment showing off that they could create a manual entry at some point. But what we really have here is somebody who's on an annual cadence. And then we also have customers on a semi-annual cadence, and even the ability to put someone on a monthly cadence where we meet with them over and over every single month and have a different level of engagement with them. If you're one of those MSPs that's lucky enough to have that customer who spends $8,000, $10,000 a month, if you have that one customer that's more than 7 or 8% of your revenue, give them that half hour a month of a regular call, but you might want to identify every 3rd or 4th one of these as a real strategic meeting where you go through risk assessments and have a different cadence, a different meeting with them. That said, as we drive in, this is where we schedule everyone. If you had anyone without meetings, you could show them here and then assign meetings to those folks. This is going to be expanded upon to give you the ability that when one of these kicks off, it will create a ticket back in your PSA, which you can then schedule and work from your PSA. So that we put your work back where your work gets done. So that's something that's coming later this year. And we're even going to be working with the folks over at TimesS to do some things like, hey, when this gets created, kick off an automated workflow that will email out to your customers and say, hey, go ahead and schedule with Amy, and here's her calendar link, and pick a time that works for you. And it'll send out those emails for you. So we're going to be working on some of that content through the end of this year and early into next year to improve this feature set and function for you. Each business review, if we drill into one, we see it takes us into the actual review itself. I can come in here and add a note. I can mark who are going to be the attendees. So these are the people who are going to come from my customer. Obviously, I'm going to go to this meeting, and I'm going to bring one of my senior developers with me, just because I don't have any engineers. I'm at a software company. Here's my primary point of contact for this meeting. I can schedule. I could set all this up and save it. Great. That gives me the ability to add a note if I were working on this. So maybe I've prepped the reports, but I'm not ready to go meet with the client yet. I can add this note, future release, that will push that note back to your ConnectWise ticket that's associated with this. And then if I wanted to drag and drop my reports here, keep in mind, Lifecycle Insights is a real-time business intelligence reporting platform. So when you create a report in Lifecycle Insights, if something changes, you add 20 computers to your inventory, you delete 5 computers from your inventory, you add a new project, or add additional contracts and services, that budget's going to change, that report's going to change, whatever it is that the output is going to change. If you want to capture your reports in real time and hang on to them and attach them to a meeting, if you want to be able to say, here's a snapshot of where I was at 6 months ago with this client, you need to capture that here. We'll keep the risk assessment, but anything else, those business analytics reports like asset lists, user lists, budget forecasts, project lists, contracts, all of that is real-time refreshing and updating. So you might save that output that you carry to the client. I always carried a paper copy so I could write on it and get my client to interact with me that way. I would come back and scan that and attach it right here, just drag and drop those files so I knew that I had them for later. But that said, if I go up here into business reviews, this is essentially the scheduler section or that drilled in business review, all specific to one customer. So here I can honor my client picker. And what I see is here's all the business reviews we've done for creative designs the whole time that they've been working with us. And I can see this nice train of thought, and the beauty of working in here as opposed to working in your ticketing system. And the reason we want to write to your ticketing system instead of saying minimize lifecycle insights, go put your notes in your ticket, is because now I can see 3 tickets ago, 4 tickets ago, 5 tickets ago. So now I know that, hey, back in February, we had 3 things that they committed to doing, and they haven't done them yet. So now I need to go kind of nudge this client and go, hey, were we serious about fixing these things? We mentioned them back in February, and we've been putting them off and putting them off and putting them off. Is it me? Is it you? Are these still priorities for you? What's different? But we can see that cadence without having to go dig up 20 tickets and figure out what's going on with the customer. So this gives us that long view back of what we've been doing with the customer and kind of how they're working with us moving forward. Again, the ability to create things like tickets from this screen is a function that'll be here in no time. Anybody have any questions about the scheduler and the business reviews section where you can drill in here and start to keep comments and build out the things that you're working on for your customers? Okay, I think that's something we don't do a very good job of talking about enough. So I wanted to spend a few minutes on it today. But with that, I'm going to spend the rest of today's time in Report Builder. Report Builder kind of assumes that you know some other things about the platform. So don't hesitate to come off mute and stop me and go, hey, I don't understand how you got to this. Report Builder is a culmination of the asset list, the user list, the budget forecast, projects, contracts, and a business review that we've done with the client, and a risk assessment that we've done with the client. So, this assumes that I've gone out and met with the client. I've done a risk assessment. That's the one I really want to work with this client on. I like to use this one as an example just because I kind of know what boxes I checked when I did this one. So we'll use that as an example. And I'm going to go build the content that I want to take to deliver and meet with this client. And I'm going to do it in front of you guys and let you see how we do it, let you ask questions and let you kind of get some feedback on how this works. So when you go into Report Builder, having made sure that these other reports are kind of ready, you're going to get a blank template like this where it says, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to build everything from zero, or do you want to start with a template? Well, I've got a template in here, and that's all well and good. That's super wonderful. But I want to build one from zero and let you guys kind of see how I do it. So I'm just going to add a component. And the first thing we're going to start with might be, maybe I want to bring in a cover page. So I'm going to bring in a text block template. I could also do a Word file template. I recommend you keep a Word file for each customer's template, for each customer's cover page. And that way you can just pull that Word file in. You'll have it. All you have to do is go to the Word file and change the date on it all. And you'll have a nice template. You can also do it with a text block template, but our text block templates aren't quite as clean as maybe you'd like them to be. So there's quite a few things you can do from there, but we're just going to add a text block template for a cover page. You guys are going to pretend that I did a really good job of formatting this, and right, this is a cover page for my favorite client. I'll put their logo here and there's some dates and performed by. There we go. Here we go. We're doing a business review performed by the dumb sales guy, and I'm going to go meet with my client, get this all squared away. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that page just the way that it is. We're going to use that one, and then we're going to go add our next component. I always like to start my strategic business reviews with an agenda. So there's some logic behind this. The agenda gives me the ability 2 to 3 weeks ahead of the meeting to reach out to my customer and say, I need to talk to you. And here's a list of the things that I want to talk about. Here's the value that I'm going to deliver to you when we come to have this meeting. And that value allows me to show my customer, this is a strategic conversation. I don't want to talk about, it could have been an email, it could have been a ticket, your stuff that could have been handled on a phone call. I want you, Mr. Customer, to bring your CFO. I want you to bring your COO. I want you to bring your leader, your entire leadership team, your CEO. If you have department heads, if you have the leaders of your business units, if you have a sales director, I want all those people in the room. I want every group represented. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out here and I'm going to grab a Word template that I know we've used in the past. And this is going to be my strategic business review. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that in. You probably have one of these saved in your template, but if not, we can get you one that shows a, maybe I don't have one out here. I thought I had one I could reuse. Let me go look real quick. No, that's not it either. We have the agenda in there different. What am I looking at? Oh, there we go. It's actually in there as an agenda template. I'm sorry. So you can grab the agenda template. You can go ahead and pull that in. So this gives you an agenda to start with. You can mangle this, break it, make it your own, customize it, do what you want with it. But my goal for you with the agenda is to get you to reach out to your customer and say, here's what I want you to talk about. Please tell me anything else that you feel is important enough to be brought up at the strategic meeting so that I can come prepared to talk about it. The most important thing is I can come prepared. I don't want to get sidelined. I don't want to get, surprised when they walk in the door, all pissed off about something. I want my customer to tell me ahead of time, hey, ticket number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Walter was mean to Greg when he called in, and now we need to have a conversation about this, right? I feel obligated as the customer to complain to you about this and bitch and moan and try and get you to give me some concessions or whatever. So I want to drum that up early. I want to get my customer to admit to it early. And then I'm going to go right back to my customer. As soon as I get that feedback back from them in email, I'm going to pick up the phone and go, hey, Mr. Customer, I saw you had a bad experience, and I want to get out ahead of that right now, as opposed to waiting for this strategic business review. Can we talk about that today? And I'm going to fix that problem right away. I might have to tell my customer I went in the back and flogged my entire support desk. I might have to tell them that maybe they were a little off in their expectation, but whatever it is, I'm going to solve that before we get to the strategic meeting, so it doesn't get derailed by a bullshit session with them complaining about something that we know isn't as big a deal as they're going to make out of it. So this is my opportunity to go back to my customer, get a quick win, apologize for screwing something up, or for somebody on my team screwing something up, and really to repair that relationship. Also for them to tell me, hey, this is what's going on with my organization. We're growing, we're changing, we're going to add locations, this, that, the other, and I can come prepared to talk about those things. So after those two components, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to add my risk assessment template. That is always the first thing that I like to talk about. Again, you can put these in any order that you want, but I'm a huge fan of my assessment template that gives me the ability to, I think I want this one. There we go. So I'm a big fan of this, this template that gives me the ability to go out to my customer and say, hey, I want to start with where we are, which is status quo, which includes some risk. We haven't replaced our hardware. We're not doing as good a job as we should in that area. But Mr. Customer, this is the stuff I want to talk to you about. We're gonna talk about status quo. We're going to review the results of the risk assessment. If you're not familiar, the first section here is the overall, so it breaks down every category. The middle section is every question we asked. I skip through this unless I have a really technical customer who's going to give me some pushback and want to see every question that we asked. But then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to talk through this section right here where we just show the at-risk items and where we show the needs attention items. This becomes, you see my comments starting to flow through here. This becomes our workbook for the next 6 months to a year. This is how we get from status quo to what a better place looks like: more secure, more stable, more reliable, et cetera. So comments that we included when we answered risk assessment items will carry through and guide our customer. These 2-3 pages kind of become our workbook. So with that included, I'm going to go add my next section. After I talk about the assessment, I like to talk about where we are budget-wise. So I always go right back to getting a budget forecast template. And I really love the ability to sit down with a customer and talk through a budget in a couple of different ways. 5-year, my favorite view, hands down. This time of year, I might start shifting to 6-year because there's very little left in 2021, but really not the end of the world. We're still forecasting several years out. The reason I like this view, it displays cleanly on one page, and I can talk to my customer about the big scary year that's coming. Every customer has this ebb and flow in their budget. In this particular customer, it's like a 30% increase between these 2 years, 25% increase, something like that. It's 33% increase, something significant like that. So I really want to point out to this customer, 2024 is going to suck. And we're going to talk about it every single quarter between now and 2024, because I want you to have a plan. If you're an organization that can save money, start saving money. If you're an organization that has to budget for this ahead of time and can go look for grants, go look for grants. Get on it now. If you need leasing and hardware as a service options, tell me about it now so I can make sure that we're prepared, that we have everything that we need. But let's make sure that this year doesn't come up as a surprise to anyone. We're going to talk about, do we buy some of this stuff in this year and then buy some of this stuff in this year and start buying things earlier, holding things an extra year to push some of that spend around. But we're really talking about the big strategic spend, like what does our outlook look like 3, 4, 5 years from now? And this is nothing but paying that Windows XP tax, right? We replaced all our Windows XP machines at once. Then we replaced all of those again when Windows 7 started to go end of life. And we're going to do it again when all those machines turn 5 years old. So this is Windows XP tax, and it's just a recurring theme that we've got to break up. If we don't break this up now, 5 years after this, we'll have the same problem because we'll be replacing 14 workstations when in an average year we're replacing 5 and 8 and some really basic realistic numbers. So it may make sense to replace 6 or 7 this year and then pull a couple of these back into this year. Those are the strategic conversations I want to set up for my customer. That's why I'm going to show this template this way. But the other thing I'm going to do is show them a second budget forecast. And I can do it a couple ways. I can give my customer a couple of quarters. I can actually go in and manually manipulate this any way that I want to see it. Maybe I just want to give them 4 quarters. So I'm going to show them this quarter. Maybe I'll show them 5 quarters. That'll be what's the remainder. Well, that won't even be right. We're going to show them 6 quarters because that's going to be the remainder of 2021 and all of 2022. So this is what I consider to be a tactical budget. The budget, when I print it, I'm going to include the asset detail. I want them to see which assets are overdue, right? Here's a server that you should have replaced by now, and that's why it's up here in the technical debt column in the overdue column. I want you to see the workstation we're going to buy a warranty upgrade for because we're going to keep it around a little longer and it's a point of sale system and it's actually kind of critical to you. I want them to see when these 3 users get new workstations. So, Patty back in billing will stop complaining because she's going to get a new machine the minute hers turns 5 years old. I want to be able to talk, down in the details tactically about these individual things. So strategic, high level, way far out. That's going to be my 12-month, my 5-year budget. This other one over here is going to be my my more detailed, more tactical budget. Then I'm going to come back here and add some additional components. After I get done with my budget, I've covered the risk assessment. So this is our current status quo. This is what it costs to support the status quo, maybe even with a couple of projects shoved in here to show them some things I'd like to work on improving. But now we're going to look at what it costs to do these projects and what the projects actually are. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in a project template so that we can see exactly what projects I want to do with this customer. And I'm going to add 2 of those just back to back, because I'm going to recommend both of these projects to this customer and see if we can't fit them in. So once I get these, whoops, I did not want a project list. You can see how often I go back to my existing templates and don't redo this. So I use the same template over and over and over in demos. So this is something I don't touch that often. So I'm going to go back here to my project summary, and I'm going to pick the first project I want to recommend to them, which is this network project. The second one I want to recommend to them probably should say PC replacement project, but when I was building this in a demo, I was really quick and I didn't fill that in, and this project's just kind of all over the place. So, but we're gonna show them these 2 projects and make the recommendation that they deal with these. Why do I do budget forecast and then projects? Well, because I'm actually going to refer back to my budget forecast once I start talking about these projects. So when I do the delivery, status quo, here's what it looks like. This is what it costs to support it. Here's that 5-year budget and the immediate near-term budget. Mr. Customer, hey, I've got this project and it's going to cost me $8,600. Let's go look back at your budget forecast. Does it make sense to do that in Q4 this year? Do you have enough money left over? Or do you want to jump into this low spend quarter that you've got coming up in Q1 and go ahead and address this then? And notice how I asked that. I didn't ask, do you want to do this project? I said, when do you want to do this project? Do you want to do it here? Do you have some year-end spend out money? Strategic. I'm talking big picture VCIO type conversations. We're talking strategies now. Do you have budget? Is there money left over? Or do we need to hold this until next year and do it in this low spend quarter? You got another low spend quarter down here, but guess what, Mr. Customer? I got a second project that we actually need to do. So let's talk about this other one here. It's actually a little more money. Do you want to do that one this year? Do we want to knock out both of these this year? What does this look like for you, Mr. Customer? And year end is such an important time to get in front of your customers. If you guys haven't heard us talking about it on social media and everywhere else, these are the kind of conversations you want to have right now. Know that all of your customers don't operate on the same fiscal year, but when they're ending this tax year, you really want them to be saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to have a bunch of money left over that I want to hide from the federal government. I should probably replace Windows 7. Those are great conversations to have. Now that we've done our project summary, or presented our project summaries, if I had a bunch more projects, if I had 10 projects for this customer that I wasn't going to present all of them, I might show them a project roadmap, in which case I can just say, hey, Mr. Customer, you know, you've got 10 other projects that are spaced out over the next 3 years to get some of that red off of your risk assessment. I don't want to stress you out over these, but I do want you to see that I've got them included in your future budget. So when we look at this big strategic agenda budget, all the red that you have on your risk assessment, I've got that planned for you, Mr. Customer. I know what it's going to take to fix it. We're putting things in order of importance and getting them set up for you so that you can knock them down one at a time in the order of importance as the money's available, and so that we don't break the bank, because I understand, just like you, Mr. Customer, I can only spend every dollar once. Any questions about that, about the logic of how we've put all of this together so far? You guys are a quiet group today. You're either sleeping on me or I'm absolutely killing it. So I'm going to lie to myself and pretend I'm killing it. So what do we want to talk about after this? Well, at this point, I've really made my pitch to my customer. This is where you are strategically. This is where we want to be. These are the steps we got to take to get there. So at this point, I'm going to insert another text template, and I'm going to bring in what I like to use for an executive summary. So I've already kind of pre-built an executive summary. Every MSP is going to do an executive summary a little bit different. But what I want is for you guys to think about this. In the world of Zoom, your customers spend as much time in meetings as you do. And it kind of sucks, right? I sit down in a meeting with you, you give me an hour's worth of stuff. I go, oh my God, I was drinking from the fire hose for an hour. Thanks so much for the documents you gave me, because that's the only way I'm going to remember everything we talked about. But I have 4 more meetings after this, and they're going to be an hour. By the end of my day, I'm not going to remember anything you put in front of me. So what I want is a 1-page executive summary that says, hey, here's kind of what our financial spend is going to be for the rest of this fiscal year. Here's next fiscal year, and here's the running average for the next 5 years. So this is what our spend looks like. So I'm top line budget numbers, life is okay. A little bit of a reason why we do this kind of stuff. A couple of quick screen grabs. These might be out of a CSAT platform. It might be out of your BDR or your backup platform. It could be out of any number of stats that you guys like to play with. If you have BrightGauge, if you have Cognition 360 or any of those tools that give you pretty graphs, you can dump some of that in here. Some folks are putting security awareness training stuff in here. My big thing is just make this, neat and tight, not too many stats. but 1 or 2 here and there, a couple of KPIs to show your customer you're on point, doesn't hurt. Project updates, we're going to, hey, here's the projects we're working on right now, right? MFA is deployed, and life is good. We've completed that project. So then, here's another project we're working on, whatever it is. And then here's your top couple of risks, okay? These are probably the things I addressed in these projects up here. So I'm just going to give them a quick, here's a project we should do, here's a problem we have, here's a problem we have. We have Windows 7 and we have old network gear. What are we going to do to get rid of those? Well, here's the project, here's the other project, here's how we're going to fix for those. This is just a quick one pager that you can send out to your customer to say, hey, here's the things we talked about. If we do these couple of things in the next quarter, we'll still be on track. We'll still be on target. So give them a little something there. And then all I'm going to do is close with, hey, what are the things that my customer needs to know about? What type of supporting documentation do we need? What other information does my customer need to have? Do we have a compliance reason to give them an asset list and a user list, or do I just want to have those at my disposal so that I can make this good conversation to my customer to say, hey, I gave you all this extra data. You can look through it if you want, or it's here if we need it. So we can come in here and add a user list, an asset list, a contracts list. So Mr. Customer, here's all the contracts that we're showing on your budget. So all this money goes into your budget every month. And these are the things that we're showing you. If there's anything not on there that we ought to have, let's talk through it. And then maybe we want to show them Microsoft 365 license summary. Make sure that if you show them this one, that you filter it by company. Never mind, it's auto filtered by company. They fixed that. So this will show my customer, hey, he's got 31 licenses. He's consumed 31 licenses. He's good to go. He doesn't have any extra licenses. He probably doesn't need to see that. But if he were a different customer, he might need to see he's got an over purchase or over consumption of licenses that he doesn't really need to have. So we're going to take that off for this guy. And then there's a few extra things you can throw in here. You can do any number of so project list that'll show you all your projects. There is a project roadmap was the other one I was looking at. Project roadmap will show you the big stuff that's coming. That's really kind of the order that I presented in. I'm going to save this. This is going to be a new assessment template for creative. I don't have to be fancy with it, but I am going to save it. And now that I've saved it, I'm going to kick into presentation mode. So the toughest part about all this is getting it in front of your customer. I don't know how many of you guys this applies to. We still have a lot of customers who are in zones where they're not comfortable going on site to visit their customers, or they're just in a scenario where certain customers don't want to meet. Some customers are so small, it's not worth it for you to drive an hour to their office to go meet with them. You want to do this digitally. If you want to do this digitally, I recommend that you click this little button right up here that kicks things into presentation mode. And what that's going to do is pop this out into a new window. And I'm going to go find that new window and share it. In that new window, we'll see this. Alex's fanciest ever cover page for my assessment, or for my deliverable. Here's my fancy cover page. I'm going to walk through this. Here's the agenda that I sent to my customer. Hopefully I've put his feedback in here and we've kind of included some things that he wants to talk about. We're going to go through an assessment summary. We can scroll through this right live on the screen. I can also flip back and forth up here. So I know if I get a little bit ahead of myself, maybe I get down here into this budget forecast, but I want to go back and talk about something in the assessment summary. I can flip back and forth up here. We're going to walk through the assessment with the customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, you scored the worst in hardware. Let's go look at the things that we need to fix. Well, the big things we need to fix are workstations and servers, switches, firewalls. So these are all hardware items that we need to clean up for you. We can jump into the budget. This is what you're going to spend over the next 5 years. This is what you're going to spend in the very, very near term. Here's that workstation you got to deal with, et cetera. Here's a project I recommend that you take on. These are the physical assets and their cost that we will replace. Mr. Customer, notice we're not replacing this stuff because Amy needs to make her Maserati payment this quarter. We're replacing these items because they're 5 and 6 years old, which in technology world is dinosaur bones, right? These are old items that we know that we really need to replace and get out of here. But when we do replace them, we're going to solve for all these problems that we found in our risk assessment. We have a partner at Lifecycle Insights who says he's playing get the red out with his customers. His customers are CEOs, they're competitive people, they hate to lose. Red is a sign of losing. And we're literally just playing a game with our customer that is get the red out. So if you're getting to the point where you're sitting down with your customer and saying we can knock these reds off of our risk assessment and turn them green, your customer gets it. He is on track. He's doing the right things in the right order. No, Eddie, your watermarks and logos and stuff will not show up out here on this presenter view at this time. If you want to see that in the platform, I think it's something that they have on the roadmap already, but just confirm that by doing me a favor, clicking on that little blue help button down there and putting in a feature request to make sure that that is on the roadmap, because all those roadmap items come from you guys. So when I jump back in the platform, I'll show you where to go to do that, but we want to make sure that you do that. So here's my project. Here's my other project that I'm going to recommend for this customer. Then the project roadmap. Of course, this is all of the projects that they're going to have set up for them. We could come back if I have projects set up for my customer into the next 20 years. I could actually come back and say, hey, only show me the projects that are proposed, only show me the projects that are planned, et cetera. We can tighten this up and play with it a few different ways, but this is going to give me a bunch of projects for my customer. If I had 10 years worth, it would show me all those years there and I'd be able to pick. Only show me 21, 22, and 23. Don't show me anything beyond 2023 because that becomes invaluable. That loses value to my customer. So you can come in here and customize those. Anywhere you see a blue gear, you can customize it. Then you'll get a better view for your customer. You can do that back on that last section where I was showing you before we click present mode, and make sure you have it the way you want it when you get into present. These text templates, play with them, tweak them. They're not perfect. There's going to be a new iteration of this text editor that comes out that gives you the ability to make prettier templates. But right now it's kind of the version 1.0 to get some feedback from partners to see what they would like to see in it and what they need in it. Again, we're going to show them the asset list. We're going to show them the user list, let them see everything that exists in their environment. Maybe we're having a conversation about, why Scott Shockley still exists in Microsoft 365, even though he doesn't have a license assigned to him and he hasn't been here since 2018. We probably want to talk about, users who have a license that haven't logged in a year. You can sort this by activity date if you want, so that you can see all of your current folks, but here's all the folks that we really need to worry about. This person hasn't logged in since 2020, these two, and they both have licenses assigned to them. So these are problems we want to go address with our customer and talk about. If you flip this the other way for the right customer, you'll see last logged in date of never. These are people who your customer went out and hired. They sent you a message and said, hey, HR just made an offer to this person. Please have their account created by Monday. You created the account, the bum never showed up for work, and now you have to go delete the account, but they never bothered to tell you this person didn't start. So there is some just cleanup that can happen here. For the most part, beyond my executive summary, I don't get into those reports unless there's a reason to, right? I give them to my customer and say, this is supporting documentation for everything that we talked about, Mr. Customer. Hey, I know you've got to be PCI compliant. I know you've got to be CIS compliant or whatever, HIPAA compliant. Part of that is taking an inventory of assets and an inventory of users. I'm going to show you this every quarter. You save it, put it where you capture your evidence to show that you're actually caring about this stuff and not just assigning it off to IT. We're going to talk about it every quarter, and you'll have all that there as well. Contracts is what we've put into your budget. That really becomes my presentation. And then I want to talk about just two things that I always like to end every presentation with. Number one, Mr. Customer, did I add value for you today? What could I have done better or different to deliver more value to you today, right? What I really want to hear from my customer is, this meeting didn't suck. It was worth it to me to come back, right? And if they tell me I delivered value, my answer is very quickly going to be great. Now we have you scheduled on a cadence to do this every 3 months, quarterly, twice, 4 times throughout the year. Is that the cadence at which you want to see this strategic data? Or does it make sense for us to do a little less often or a little more often, right? Get their buy-in. If your customer says to you, I think I could get away with this twice a year. It takes a lot of time out of my really critical key people. Can we do it twice a year? You could do this again in 6 months. No problem, Mr. Customer. I'm going to get that on the calendar. Guess what? Your customer just told you he expects a quarterly business review or a strategic business review again in 6 months. It was his idea. There's no more talking him into showing up. He's going to show up. He's going to expect you to show up. So now we've turned it from something where we beg them to come to the table to something where they want to come to the table and they see value in it. And once we made it their idea, they're going to show up and they're going to bring their team with them. So did I add value? We go from did I add value to how often do you need to see this kind of content? The easy pivot from there, once they tell us, okay, no problem. I got the schedule for you again in another 6 months, Mr. Customer. Great. Looking forward to working with you and your team. One more thing before I go, and I hate to even ask this. We have such a great relationship and I love working with you guys. I almost feel like I'm imposing, but part of my job is to grow my business. And I was wondering if anybody was at the top of your mind who you could think of who might see value in the same kind of conversation we had here today with their leadership team. I'm always looking for new people to help. Obviously, it's how we grow our business. Would you be willing to introduce me to somebody in your circle? right? And this is the opportunity to ask for a referral. My customer just told me I added value. Hopefully they're sitting there staring at this budget going, this is freaking awesome. I've never had one of these. IT's never delivered me a budget before, right? And now we have somebody who's happy, who's delivering us a budget, or I'm sorry, who's delivering us a referral. The old way of doing QBRs, we'd go in and go, Mr. Customer, let me justify my existence. I backed up your stuff. I gave you antivirus and I blocked your viruses. I blocked your spams. I sent you phishing and you clicked on links. I justified my existence. Now would you give me referrals? And that doesn't play well. We just bored a customer to sleep for an hour and we ask them to who else they know who would like to take a nap for an hour while I sit in their office and ramble. Using it this way, we flipped it around and we've asked them if we delivered value. When they come out confidently and say yes, then we can ask for that referral. If we miss the mark, if they say, this could have been an email, that's when you need to go back to your customer and say, what could I have done better or different to deliver real strategic value to you today, Mr. Customer? Because technology is scary. The world is not what it was a year ago. We really want to deliver value and have a meeting that helps guide your business into the next year or 2 years or 3 years. So what information would you have seen value in? Where did I miss the mark? And what could I have done better or different to deliver value to you, right? And that ask at the end of, what could I do better or different? Did we deliver value? That entire conversation is what builds a VCIO program and a QBR program and an actual client engagement program where you get to come back and sit with people who want to be at the table with you, who value you as a strategic partner, who know you're going to bring them this budget and go, hey, I see this big old lump up here in 2024. Let's start planning together how we get over that. Let's work together to address your problem, right? This is his problem, not mine. It's my problem when I come to him on no notice and go, hey, I need $20,000 to replace 14 PCs that we had never talked about before. That's my problem. When I talked about it 3 years in advance, delivered it to them with strategy, with open conversation, presented it multiple times and worked with them to find a solution, that's when I add value. And that's when it becomes their problem that I'm helping them work their way through. So with that, I'll hop off my soapbox. I did promise to show one more thing back in the platform. So back in the platform here, if you have a recommendation or a suggestion for us, click on help and contact us. We take all of our new roadmap items, new feature items from our customer feedback. We don't build anything that you guys didn't ask for unless it's a security feature or something that's just totally obvious to us that it needs to be in the platform. 95% of what we build comes right from our customers saying, hey, I'd like to have it. So, Eddie, your request, put it in here, just type feature request right in the subject. If you want to take a screenshot of the section you're in the platform, you can add that. You can upload some pictures, whatever, and type out for us what you'd like us to add. I know everybody has a few things you'd like to see. There's some things we're working on right now, including SSO with Microsoft, some additional writebacks to create tickets and opportunities in the system, in your system of record today, back in ConnectWise or in Autotask or Synchro or whatever. And then some abilities to push back ticket sales opportunities, that kind of stuff. And then and we just imported the ability to pull contracts over from some of those tools. It's still coming for a couple of the other tools. So with that, I've either bored you guys to sleep or given you some food for thought. That really wraps up the prepared content we had for today. This is typical of a new to Lifecycle Insights. We go 30 minutes or so. I talked a little longer today on prepared content. We're going to hang out for the next, Amy and I are going to hang out for the next 13, 14 minutes to give you guys an opportunity to come off mute, ask questions that you may have about the platform, give us your unique use cases and ask us questions or have us show you tips and tricks. If you don't have any needs for that kind of stuff, congratulations, you get 13 minutes back on your Wednesday, and you can go play with Lifecycle Insights and maybe get a little closer to getting a QBR out the door. And with that, I'm going to kick off the recording so you guys can talk about things that you wouldn't otherwise talk about.